Hello, my name is Nicholl, and today I just want to bring to you some information, hopefully, that will help you get through some struggles with dealing with people who are just determined to damage your reputation. People who are always talking negative about you no matter what you do. They're always up to no good concerning you. People who want to annihilate you, whether it's on the job, whether it's in a relationship with someone. They just, for whatever reason, have issue with you. And you don't really know. I mean, some people have said to you, well, maybe it's because of this or maybe it's because of that. But in your spirit, that doesn't even give you any peace. The people that are giving you their advice, their opinions, it's not giving you any peace. And so today we're talking about in the book of Samuel, chapter 24, we're talking about David and we're talking about Saul. Because some of you all may be in a position right now that you could really hurt someone. You could really do something really bad to someone who keeps bad-mouthing you, who keeps being negative, saying all sorts of things about you, or looking for faults concerning you. You could really do something bad, but the Lord is holding you right now. You've been at a place where you're like, oh, I could say this, but I'm not. And some people say, well, I would have. And then you had certain situations where you said, you know what? I could get you on that. I really could, but I'm not. And other people said, well, if it was me, I would have done this, that, and the other, but you're not me. So how did David deal with Saul, who was just crazy, okay? Who was out of his mind with jealousy? How did he deal with him? Well, when the opportunity came, when he could have hurt him, matter of fact, he could have killed him, he spared his life. And so in Samuel 24, we read, and I'm reading out of the NIV Study Bible today. After Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, he was told, David is in the desert of En-Gedi. So Saul took 3,000 chosen men from all Israel and set out to look for David and his men near the crags of the wild goats. In some of your situations right now, somebody is out to destroy you. They're out to find fault with you. They're out to find some other people that don't like you, whether it's on the internet or off the internet. But for whatever reason, they are after you. Reading on, he came to the sheep pens along the way. A cave was there, and Saul went in to relieve himself. David and his men were far back in the cave. The men said, this is the day the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish. Then David crept up unnoticed and cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Afterward, David was conscience-stricken for having cut off a corner of his robe. He said to his men, the Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, or lift my hand against him, for he is the anointed of the Lord. With these words, David rebuked his men and did not allow them to attack Saul. And Saul left the cave and went his way. So you see, you have people around you who are ready to fight, people who could mess up some folks' reputation. They could do some serious harm. But you have told these people, no, I'm not going to allow you to do that. You see, I was in a position where I could have very well had an enemy of mine hurt. And we're not talking about just wounded. We're talking about forever hurt. Okay? Because there were some people who did not like this individual for some things that he has done in the past concerning me. And so they pretty much had made up in their mind that, look, what we could do is this, that, and the other to make sure that he will never bother you ever again in life. And so the opportunity was there, but no one took that opportunity. Why? Because I told them don't. And other people said, oh, no, I can't believe it because, see, if it was me, I would have went on and did it irregardless of whether or not you had said something about it. But you see, that could have been blood on somebody's hands. And see, we have to understand, too. We have to understand that if we command somebody to do something to someone else, even though their hands got dirty, we were still a part of it. We were still a part of it because we gave the green light. We okayed it. We supported it. And so if you don't want to lose your freedom behind any foolishness, then you don't go about supporting people when it comes to doing evil. And so David didn't allow his men to go out there and do Saul harm. Reading on. Then David went out of the cave and called out to Saul, "My lord, the king." When Saul looked behind him, David bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. He said to Saul, "Why do you listen when men say, 'David is bent on harming you'? This day you have seen with your own eyes how the Lord delivered you into my hands in the cave. Some urged me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not lift my hand against my master because he is the Lord's anointed." And let me stop right there. Some of you have mothers and fathers who have done you wrong. They have said some negative things about you. They have went against promises that they said, "Oh, I would never," but then they went on and they did it anyway. And so some of you all are at that place right now where you're like, you know what? I'm that close. I'm that close to paying my mother back. I'm that close to paying my father back. I'm that close. But maybe all you do is just take something just meaningless, like a plastic fork out the drawer. You know what I mean? Something silly, because you just want to at least calm that urge on the inside to want to really do something bad. So you end up doing something silly. And they don't know. They'll say, "Oh, I was looking for that plastic fork. Why did you take it?" And then you just kind of blow it off. You see? So little stuff like that. Little stuff like that. You get that close to the enemy and you're ready to do something, but instead, maybe you just knock over the glass of water or something that they had. Maybe you got that close to the enemy that you were ready to just tarnish his or her name, but instead you just sat there and just stared at him. And the person may have cursed you, said a few words. "Why she keep looking at me? Why you keep looking at me?" Because you know in your mind that you could hurt that person, but you don't. And God blesses people when they don't do the things that they thought that they really wanted to do. He turns around and he does some great things. David, as we later on find out, is that he becomes king. I mean, he showed that he could make fair judgment under pressure. Moving on. So after he's talked to Saul and he is trying to just find out why is it that this man is doing what he's doing, he proceeds to say, well, in verse 12, "May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me, but my hand will not touch you. As the old saying goes, from evil doers come evil deeds, so my hand will not touch you." You see, some of you all have a reputation, a very good reputation. And you know that if you do certain things to pay your enemies back, then your reputation will be tarnished. And so for you to be mindful of that, that's very wise, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where everybody ends up looking at you and saying, "This person, I thought he was this, or I thought she was that." But the reality is that she's no better than this one and that one. You never want people to get to that place where that's all they say about you, is that you're evil, you're no good, you're wrong, you're this, you're that, when you know that you have tried very hard to build up a stellar reputation. And so that's what keeps a lot of us motivated to keep on doing right, because we don't want people to talk. But guess what? There's always going to be somebody that's going to talk. Even though David did all that he did, Saul was still going to chase David. Saul was still going to keep in his mind the potential that David could be king. He was still going to just go after him. And sometimes no matter what we say, what we do, no matter what nice thing we try to say or do for someone, they're still going to find evil with it. But see, I love what David said. "May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me." Because people will not only do things, but they'll say things. And they'll think, "Oh, well, it's okay. I mean, I just said it because I was mad." And so they justify their evil. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the reason. God heard you. And God will deal God will deal with you. You see, we say stuff and then we think, oh, well, we'll be okay. We'll be all right. And then we wonder why all sorts of negative things come our way. We do things. We do unrighteous things. We say unrighteous things. And then we wonder, why is it that God is not blessing us? Why is it that we can't come up higher? We've got to really, really focus on how things make us feel. And then we have to take those feelings and give them to the Lord and have Him deal with them. Because if we try to do things in our own strength, then that's when rage will start to rise up in us. And that's when we'll end up taking matters in our own hands. And before long, we end up reaping the consequences of our sins. Okay, so for those of you all who are struggling, like I said earlier, with people saying things to you, doing things, and you really want to get at them, you can see from the Bible that it's not the wisest thing to do. We've got to find other ways to be able to send a message that, oh, I'm not weak. I could hurt you, but I'm not. So I hope that someone will take this message and use it wisely. And thank you so much for listening.